The air was thick with tension as Elizabeth stood in Naomi's cramped living room, her eyes scanning the modest surroundings with barely concealed disdain. Naomi, sensing her sister's discomfort, felt a mix of resentment and sadness. It had been over 3 years since they last spoke meaningfully. "You really live like this," Elizabeth's voice cut through the silence, her tone dripping with judgment. She glanced around at the second-hand furniture and the simple decorations that Naomi had put up herself. Naomi clenched her jaw, feeling her defenses rise. "Yes, Liz, this is my home. It's what I can afford," she retorted, her voice steady but her heart racing. Elizabeth scoffed, smoothing the fabric of her expensive dress, as if the very air of Naomi's apartment might tarnish it. "I can't believe we're related," she muttered. "Look at you, no husband, no shiny career. And this place," she waved a dismissive hand, "it's depressing." Naomi felt a sting at the words, each one a reminder of how differently they viewed the world. "Not everyone measures success by money or marriage, Liz. I'm happy, isn't that enough?" "Happy? Really?" Naomi Elizabeth laughed, a harsh sound that filled the small space. "I'm getting married in a month, to a man who actually has ambitions. What do you have?" This she gestured around disdainfully. Naomi's patience was wearing thin. "Why are you here, Elizabeth? Surely not to criticize my life choices. What do you want?" Elizabeth's expression shifted, the contempt momentarily replaced by a strategic softness. "I need you at my wedding, Naomi. It wouldn't look right without my sister there. Think about the family." The family. Naomi's laugh was bitter. "You mean the family that you ignored when Mum was sick? When she died, and you couldn't bother to show up for her funeral because you were too busy with your new friends?" Elizabeth flinched, then masked her discomfort. "That's low, Naomi. I was. Tied up. Besides, I'm here now, offering you a chance to be part of something important." "By bribing me," Naomi challenged, her eyes narrowing. "If that's what it takes," Elizabeth reached into her purse, pulling out an envelope stuffed with cash. "This should cover your expenses. Consider it a gesture of goodwill." Naomi eyed the envelope. The money was tempting. It would clear her debts, and then some. But the thought of selling out for a few days of pretense gnawed at her. "I'll think about it," Naomi said finally, her voice cold. "But I want an apology for today and for Mum. Money isn't enough, Elizabeth." Elizabeth hesitated, then nodded stiffly. "Fine. I'm sorry, Naomi. Truly, will you come?" Naomi took the envelope, feeling the weight of it in her hands. "I'll be there," she said quietly, "but not for you. For Mum." As Elizabeth turned to leave, Naomi's words hung in the air, a fragile bridge over a chasm of years filled with silence and unsaid things. This wedding would be more than a social gathering. It might just be their last chance to salvage what remained of sisterhood. 2 weeks had slipped by since Elizabeth's unexpected visit. Naomi sat at her small kitchen table, sipping tea, her thoughts a tangled mess. The wedding invitation lay unopened beside her, its gold-embossed lettering mocking her from across the table. The phone rang, cutting through her thoughts. She knew who it was before she answered. "Naomi, have you decided?" Elizabeth's voice was brisk, businesslike. "Yeah, I saw the invite," Naomi replied, her voice neutral, her fingers tracing the steam on her tea mug. "So you'll come?" Elizabeth pressed, the impatience evident in her voice. Naomi hesitated, the envelope of cash from Elizabeth still hidden away in her top drawer, unspent and heavy with implication. "I said I'd think about it, Liz. I haven't said yes yet." "But you need the money, Naomi." "I know you do," Elizabeth countered, a note of triumph in her tone as if she had already won this round. Naomi bristled. "It's not just about the money," she snapped. "You want me there to play happy families, make everything look perfect. You haven't even apologized properly for what you said about Mum, about my life." There was a pause on the line. When Elizabeth spoke again, her voice was softer, more conciliatory. "I know I've been harsh. I'm sorry, really. It's just been so stressful with the wedding planning. I want you there, Naomi, not just for appearances, but because you're my sister." Naomi sighed, her anger deflating slightly. I don't know, Liz, it feels wrong showing up like nothing happened, smiling for your fancy friends. Please, Naomi Elizabeth's plea was almost genuine. It won't all be fake. I've missed you. This could be a new start for us. Naomi felt a tug in her chest, a mix of hope and skepticism. A new start, she echoed, her voice laced with doubt. Yes, a new start, Elizabeth affirmed. Look, come and see how it goes. If it's awful, you can leave, no questions asked. And the money is yours to keep, either way. Naomi chewed her lip, pondering. The offer was tempting, not just the money, but the faint, almost foolish hope of reconciliation. All right, I'll come, she finally said, a decision born more out of curiosity than conviction. But I'm not making any promises about how long I'll stay. That's all I'm asking, Elizabeth said, relief evident in her voice. Thank you, Naomi. You won't regret it. As Naomi hung up the phone, she wasn't so sure about Elizabeth's last statement. She stared at the wedding invitation again, her decision made but her doubts lingering. Attending the wedding might mend old wounds, or it might just reopen them. Either way, she was about to find out. A few days later, Naomi stood at the counter of her small kitchen, mechanically chopping vegetables for dinner. Her mind wasn't on the meal, it was on the upcoming wedding and the strings attached to her attendance. The phone rang, shattering the rhythm of her knife against the cutting board. It was Elizabeth again. Naomi, I wanted to make sure you received the money. Elizabeth's voice came through the line, sounding unusually cautious. Naomi glanced at the unopened envelope that lay on the table. Yeah, it's here, she said, her voice flat. And Elizabeth prompted, waiting for some sign of softening. And nothing. It's sitting here. I haven't touched it. Naomi's fingers brushed against the envelope, the paper crisp and unyielding under her touch. Elizabeth sighed, a rustle of frustration audible over the phone. Naomi, I apologized, didn't I? I'm trying here. Can't you just accept it and move on? Naomi stopped chopping and leaned against the counter, her voice firm. You said some pretty harsh things, Liz. It's going to take more than just an envelope full of cash to fix this. There was a pause. Then Elizabeth spoke, her tone more reflective. I know I've messed up. I missed Mum's funeral. I've been wrapped up in my own life. I'm sorry, really sorry. I want to make things right with you. Naomi softened slightly, the sincerity in Elizabeth's voice chipping away at the wall she'd built around her feelings. Okay, she murmured. Maybe I can start to forgive. But I'm not there yet. I understand, Elizabeth responded, her voice lighter. Just come to the wedding. Let's try to start anew. Naomi considered her sister's words. The promise of a fresh start was tempting, almost as much as the financial relief the money offered. She picked up the envelope, tearing it open and thumbing through the stack of bills. All right, Liz. I'll be there, Naomi said, a mix of resignation and resolve in her voice. But I'm doing this for us, not just for the money. We have a lot to sort out. Elizabeth's relief was palpable. Thank you, Naomi. This means a lot to me. More than you know. As Naomi hung up, she felt a tangle of emotions, relief, apprehension, and a faint spark of hope. She tucked the money away, knowing its weight was more than just financial. It was a down payment on a chance to mend fences with her sister, a price she was now willing to pay. Dinner forgotten, Naomi sat down with a heavy sigh. The road ahead was uncertain, but for the first time in a long time, she felt ready to face whatever came next. Naomi arrived at the island venue, her suitcase trailing behind her like a reluctant companion. The place was breathtaking, a panorama of blue skies and crystal-clear waters, all framed by luxurious accommodations that looked more like they belonged in a glossy magazine than in Naomi's world. As she walked through the opulent lobby, her discomfort grew. Elizabeth spotted her from across the room, her face lighting up with a practiced smile. She rushed over, her heels clicking sharply on the marble floor. Naomi, you made it, she exclaimed, embracing her sister with a little too much enthusiasm for Naomi's taste. Yeah, here I am, Naomi replied, her voice flat, pulling slightly away from the embrace. Elizabeth seemed not to notice the coolness. "Let me show you around. This place is amazing, isn't it?" she gushed, grabbing Naomi's hand and pulling her toward the grand staircase. As they walked, Elizabeth pointed out various amenities and highlights, her voice bubbling with excitement. Naomi nodded along, her responses muted. The stark contrast between their lives was never more apparent. "Isn't this just perfect?" Elizabeth beamed, gesturing broadly at the sprawling view from the balcony. "It's something," Naomi agreed non-committally, her eyes scanning the horizon rather than the opulence. Elizabeth's face took on a slight frown, sensing Naomi's detachment. "You could at least try to enjoy it, Naomi. It's not every day you get to be in a place like this." Naomi sighed, feeling the old resentments bubble up. "Liz, it's hard to enjoy something that feels so staged. It's like we're all just playing parts in your perfect wedding script." Elizabeth's expression hardened for a moment before she masked it with a smile. "Come on, Naomi. Let's not start this again. Today should be about celebration, not old grudges." Naomi felt a twinge of guilt but pushed back. "It's not a grudge, Liz, it's how I feel. All this," she waved her hand around, "it doesn't feel real to me. It's beautiful, but it's not me." Elizabeth paused, her eyes searching Naomi's. "I wanted to give you a taste of this life. Maybe show you what you could have if you just tried a little harder." Naomi felt a sting at the words, harsher in their honesty. "Or maybe I'm fine with what I have, Liz. Not everyone dreams of this kind of life." The air between them grew tense, a silent standoff on the balcony overlooking paradise. Finally, Elizabeth sighed, her shoulders slumping slightly. "I'm sorry, I just thought. I don't know what I thought." She turned away, looking out over the water. "Let's just try to make the best of this, okay?" Naomi watched her sister, a mix of sympathy and frustration warring inside her. "Okay, Liz, for your sake I'll try." The rest of the day passed in a blur of pre-wedding activities, with Naomi playing her part in the festivities. Yet, beneath the surface her doubts remained, a quiet current against the tide of celebration. The island sun was setting, casting a golden glow over the beachfront venue as the rehearsal dinner commenced. Naomi tried to mingle, her champagne glass untouched in her hand as she observed the guests laughing and chatting around her. She felt more out of place than ever, the fake smiles and luxury wearing on her. As Naomi leaned against a railing, lost in thought, she overheard a hushed conversation from a secluded corner behind some ornate ferns. Curiosity piqued, she edged closer, her presence masked by the soft murmur of the ocean waves. "It's all set for tomorrow," then a man's voice whispered, the tone oily and slick. "Of course Jackson has no idea. And after tomorrow the accounts will be merged and the funds will be in my control," Elizabeth's voice responded, a cold edge to her usual cheer. Naomi's heart pounded as she listened, her sister's words sinking in. It wasn't just nerves or paranoia. Elizabeth was plotting something deceitful. Good. Once you're legally bound, he won't be able to do much about it. You're sure he's clueless?" the man pressed. "Completely. He's enamored, thinks this is a fairy tale. By the time he realizes, it'll be too late." Elizabeth chuckled, the sound chilling. Naomi withdrew silently, her mind racing. She needed to confirm what she'd just heard. She needed an ally. Finding Camila, Jackson's sister, seemed like the next logical step. Camila was by the buffet table, her expression more subdued than the other guests. Naomi approached cautiously. "Camila, can I talk to you for a minute?" Naomi's tone was urgent yet low. Camila looked at her, a frown creasing her brow. "Sure, what's up?" "It's about Elizabeth." And Jackson. Naomi started, her voice trembling slightly. "I overheard something troubling." Camila's expression shifted to one of alertness. "What did you hear?" she asked, steering them both away to a quieter spot. Naomi recounted the conversation verbatim, her words tumbling out in a rush. Camila listened intently, her face hardening with each detail. "I had my suspicions," Camila admitted once Naomi finished. "Elizabeth always seemed off to me." Too calculated. But this is something else. We need to do something, before it's too late. Before Jackson makes a huge mistake, Naomi insisted, her resolve firming. Camila nodded, her mind working through the possibilities. I'll gather more evidence. I know some of Jackson's friends in the finance sector who can quietly look into her dealings. And I'll keep an eye on her, try to get more proof, Naomi added, the alliance between them solidifying. Let's meet later tonight. Pool whatever information we can find. We have to protect Jackson, Camila concluded, her voice a whisper of determination. Naomi agreed, feeling a weight lift slightly. She wasn't alone in this. Together, they might just be able to shield Jackson from the worst betrayal of his life. As Naomi walked away, her spirits bolstered by the partnership with Camila, she knew the masquerade was about to end. The truth would come out one way or another, and she would be right at the heart of it, ready to confront whatever came her way. Naomi and Camila convened later that evening in a quiet corner of the hotel's lush garden, under the guise of a casual stroll. The stars were bright above them, but the gravity of their conversation pulled their thoughts back down to earth. Here's what I found out, Camila whispered, her phone screen glowing in the dark. Elizabeth has been making some risky business moves, all backed by Jackson's resources. If he marries her, she'll gain even more access. Naomi nodded, absorbing the implications. I heard her talking about merging their accounts immediately after the wedding. It sounds like she's planning to drain him dry. Camila's expression was grim. That fits with this. She handed her phone to Naomi, showing an email exchange between Elizabeth and an unknown contact discussing substantial financial transactions. Who's the contact? Naomi asked, handing the phone back. I don't know yet, but I'm working on it. We need to expose her before she can go through with any of this. Naomi felt a surge of anxiety mixed with determination. How do we even begin to tell Jackson? He's head over heels for her. Camila sighed, a hand running through her hair. I know, he's my brother, and I hate to be the one to break his heart, but it's better than letting him marry a fraud. Right, Naomi agreed. We need solid proof, though. Something incontrovertible. They spent the next hour brainstorming, planning how to gather more evidence without alerting Elizabeth to their suspicions. Naomi felt a kinship with Camila that she hadn't expected, united by their common goal to protect someone they cared about. Let's check the hotel's security footage, Naomi suggested. If we can get video of Elizabeth meeting with that unknown contact, it could help. I'll talk to the security team first thing in the morning, Camila said. I have a friend there who might help us discreetly. And I'll see if I can get anything more out of Elizabeth, Naomi added. Maybe if I press her about her business plans, she'll slip up and reveal more. Be careful, Camila warned. She's cunning. Don't let her suspect you know anything. Naomi nodded. I know, I'll be cautious. As they parted ways for the night, Naomi felt a mix of fear and adrenaline. This was far more than she had bargained for when she agreed to attend the wedding. But now, she had a crucial role in preventing a disaster. Back in her room, Naomi lay awake, thinking about the unfolding drama. She wasn't just a bystander anymore, she was an active participant in a high-stakes game. The realization was terrifying but also strangely empowering. She wasn't going to let Elizabeth destroy her brother-in-law's life. Whatever it took, Naomi was ready to fight. The morning of the wedding dawned clear and sunny, with a gentle breeze stirring the palm trees that lined the path to the beach where the ceremony would take place. Naomi felt the weight of the day ahead as she dressed, her mind racing through the plan she and Camila had concocted. Camila met Naomi outside her room, both of them carrying an air of determined calm. I got the footage, Camila whispered, clutching her phone. It's clear as day, Elizabeth meeting with that man, discussing their plans. Perfect, Naomi replied, a tight smile on her face. Let's go find Jackson before the ceremony starts. They found Jackson in his suite, looking every bit the handsome groom in his tailored suit, his face alight with nervous excitement. Naomi's heart sank seeing his happiness, knowing it was based on lies. Jackson, We need to talk, Camila said gently, closing the door behind them. Jackson's smile faltered. Is everything okay? It's about Elizabeth, Naomi started, her voice steady despite her racing heart. There's something you need to see before you go through with this. Jackson looked between the two, confusion turning to concern. What's going on? Camila handed him her phone, the video queued up. Watch this, she said softly. Jackson watched, his brow furrowing as the voices of Elizabeth and the mysterious man filled the room, discussing their scheme. As the video ended, he looked up, his face pale, his eyes haunted. This can't be. His voice trailed off, disbelief mingling with the onset of betrayal. I'm so sorry. Jackson, Naomi said, her voice full of genuine sympathy. We thought you should know before making a commitment. Jackson stood, pacing the room, his hands shaking slightly. I can't believe she would. All this time it was just a game to her. We can stop the wedding. Call everything off, Camila suggested, her voice calm despite her own turmoil. No, Jackson stopped pacing, a new resolve settling over his features. Let's go ahead with the wedding. Naomi and Camila exchanged puzzled looks. You still want to marry her after this? Naomi asked, incredulous. Not marry her, Jackson clarified, a steely edge to his voice. I want to expose her in front of everyone she's lied to. She's not going to get away with this. With that, the trio headed to the ceremony site, each step heavy with the weight of the impending confrontation. As the wedding guests gathered, the ocean providing a serene backdrop, Elizabeth walked down the aisle, radiant and oblivious to the storm brewing. She reached Jackson, her smile confident and bright. The officiant began the ceremony, but at the moment he asked if anyone objected, Jackson held up his hand, silencing the murmurs of the crowd. I cannot do this, he announced, his voice loud and clear. This marriage would be based on lies. Elizabeth's smile faltered, her eyes darting around in panic. Jackson turned to the crowd, his gaze finally resting on Elizabeth. I have learned just today that what we had was built on deceit. I cannot in good conscience marry someone who sees me not as a partner, but as a mark. The crowd erupted in murmurs and gasps, Elizabeth's face crumpling as her plans unraveled spectacularly. I'm sorry for the spectacle, but it had to be done, Jackson said, not unkindly. I hope everyone can forgive the disruption. As Elizabeth fled, humiliated and defeated, Naomi felt a mix of relief and sadness. The day had been saved, but at such great emotional cost. Jackson turned to Naomi and Camila, gratitude in his eyes. Thank you for having my back, he said, his voice thick with emotion. Always, Camila replied, hugging her brother. Naomi watched the scene, feeling an unexpected peace settling over her. The truth was painful, but it was also liberating. Today had proven that. As the guests dispersed in a murmur of shock and confusion, Jackson stood alone by the altar, looking out at the sea. Naomi approached him cautiously, her heart aching for the man who had nearly lost so much. You okay? She asked tentatively, her voice low. Jackson turned, his eyes meeting hers, filled with a complex mix of emotions. I will be, he replied, forcing a small smile. Thanks to you and Camila. I can't believe I was so blind. It's not your fault, Naomi reassured him gently. She was very convincing. Jackson nodded, looking back at the ocean. I thought today was going to be the happiest day of my life, he sighed. Now I'm just. I don't know what I am. Naomi stood beside him, her presence supportive. You're free, Jackson. Free from a lie. That's something to be grateful for. Jackson looked at her, really looked, and for the first time, Naomi saw a flicker of something else in his eyes. You're amazing, Naomi. You've been nothing but kind to me since you arrived. Why did you even decide to come? Naomi chuckled softly, the tension easing between them. Honestly, your sister bribed me to come because we hadn't been speaking for years. But I came to find closure, not just for the money. Jackson laughed, the sound bitter yet relieved. Money seems to be a recurring theme today. They both fell silent, watching the waves. Finally, Jackson spoke up again. I had planned a whole speech about love and partnership for the ceremony. It feels wasted now. Maybe it's not, Naomi suggested, her voice gentle. Maybe you just need to redirect it. Jackson turned to face her fully, taking a tentative step closer. Naomi, would you? Do you think we could start over? Not like today, no grand gestures or expectations. Just two people getting to know each other, honestly this time. Naomi felt her heart skip a beat. The suggestion was unexpected but not unwelcome. I'd like that, she admitted, a warm smile spreading across her face. I'd like that very much. So they started walking down the beach, their footsteps in sync. They talked about everything and nothing, likes, dislikes, dreams, fears. The more they talked, the more the connection deepened, rooted in authenticity and a mutual understanding of each other's vulnerability. As the sun set, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, Naomi felt a sense of rightness about the day. It hadn't ended in the way anyone expected, but perhaps it had ended just as it should. Several months had passed since the tumultuous day of the would-be wedding. Naomi and Jackson were sitting on the deck of their new home, overlooking a small, peaceful garden they had started together. The evening was cool and quiet, a perfect setting for reflection. Jackson took a sip of his tea, then turned to Naomi, a contemplative look in his eyes. Do you ever think about how crazy it is that we ended up here, he asked, gesturing around at the serene backyard. Naomi chuckled softly, her eyes following a butterfly flitting among the flowers. All the time, from a disastrous wedding to this tranquil life, it's been a wild ride. Jackson smiled, his hand finding hers across the small table. I was thinking about how easy it would have been to miss all this. If you hadn't been there, if you hadn't cared enough to dig deeper. Naomi squeezed his hand, her voice soft but earnest. I couldn't let you walk into that trap. And somehow it brought us here. It's strange how things work out. It's more than strange, it's miraculous, Jackson said, his tone warm. You saved me from a huge mistake, Naomi. I'm not sure I've ever properly thanked you for that. Naomi shrugged lightly, a playful glint in her eyes. I'll accept thanks in the form of you doing the dishes tonight. Deal, Jackson laughed, his laughter echoing in the quiet evening. They fell into a comfortable silence, each lost in their thoughts. After a moment, Naomi spoke up again. I was really scared, you know. After everything came out, after we started over, I was scared it wouldn't work, that maybe we were just rebounding from the drama. Jackson nodded, his expression serious. I had the same fears. But then, every day with you made all those fears seem pointless. You're my rock, Naomi. And you're mine, Naomi replied, leaning closer. I think what we've learned is that love isn't about how perfect you can make the ceremony or how extravagant the proposal is. It's about the quiet moments, the real ones. Like this one, Jackson agreed, his gaze affectionate as he looked at her. Yes. Like this one, Naomi affirmed. You know, I never believed much in fate or destiny. But now I think maybe there's something to it. Maybe some things are meant to be. Jackson raised his teacup in a small toast. To fate then, and to us finding each other against all odds. Naomi clinked her cup against his, her smile bright. To us. As the sky darkened and the stars began to appear, Naomi felt a deep sense of peace. The journey here hadn't been easy, but it had been worth every step. In Jackson she had found love, yes, but also a partner, a friend, and a new beginning. Triumph, she realized, didn't always come from winning battles or achieving grand victories. Sometimes the greatest triumphs were quiet, built on the foundations of honesty, resilience, and heart. And as they sat together, the night gently wrapping around them, Naomi knew they had triumphed in the best possible way. Let us know in the comments how this story has inspired you, or share your own experiences of overcoming adversity. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more heart-touching stories like this one. Hit the bell icon to stay updated with our latest uploads. Your journey through the complexities of the human heart starts now. Remember, your story isn't over yet. It's just a new chapter beginning. Stay strong, stay inspired,